Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. This is a concept that I keep on coming back to over and over again, the cult mindset. And I find it interesting that so many people will call those on the opposing side a cult, while not recognizing their own cult mentality. The Democrats will call Trump supporters cultists, and the people on the right call Sanders or Biden supporters cultists. And yet, you know, in each case, that's true. Uh, but they don't recognize it in themselves. You know, Trump supporters will claim that he improved the economy even as their small businesses close, they're laid off from their corporate jobs, and more jobs are shipped to Mexico, um, and we have completely lost the trade war with China. Yeah, and there's no coming back from it. Probably not in our lifetimes. Uh, you know, he gave tax breaks to the rich, but that was with the assistance of guess who? The Democrats. And you know, on the other side of this, yeah, Trump has told a lot of lies, but you can go back also through videos and see Biden, uh, you know, being called out on corporate media from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, being called out on plagiarism and lying about his education record and his history on policies and legislation. Uh, Now, on the right, it doesn't surprise me so much that people are prone to a cult mindset. For the most part, people on the right tend to be religious, and people that have that religious mindset, the need for religion, they're already prone to cognitive dissonance. They will, uh, you know, they've lived their entire lives making up excuses for contradictions that make no sense at all, just to maintain this thought. The Christians that claim to be Christian, even as they are all about, while Jesus taught, you know, love, peace, forgiveness, and and yet they're all about, you know, Bibles, bombs, bullets, and bimbos. It's like, they're pro-life, but many of them will screw anything that walks. With no thought of consequence, and they'll walk, and the guys will walk away from their own children and call themselves and still call themselves Christians. Look how I'm not going to go into that. All that's another time. But it does surprise me with the people on the alleged left, the progressives. Yeah, we got very recently, right now, right now, Jimmy Dore started the Force the Vote movement, which is very reasonable. All this is just, you know, Democrats, members of the House, withholding their vote for Pelosi for Speaker of the House until she brings up Medicare for all to a floor vote, a recorded floor vote. And yet you've got AOC calling the Force the Vote movement violent. What's violent about it? There's no violence involved here. Yeah, people close their eyes to what kind of theater they're being subjected to. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer saying their houses were vandalized. Really, top members of Congress have no security at their homes. They have protesters outside their houses and they weren't on the phone to the police. Really? You think this is real? You think that this was not staged? There's no violence here. There is no violence. This is all theater. This is a show being put on so that Pelosi will not bring Medicare for all up for a floor vote. No. Even if somebody vandalized her house, how does that affect a floor vote for Medicare for all during a pandemic? And for you, all of you that want to claim that there's any kind of deception going on with this pandemic, I can attest myself as a nurse that every hospital in Montgomery, Alabama has been on divert numerous times in the last 2 weeks alone, because I tried to send patients out that had head injuries and the hospital didn't want to take them because they were on divert. They wound up having to take them, but they told me on the phone, you cannot send anyone else here. It was an absolute emergency that these people be seen, but I was told I could not send anyone else. Why? Because they were overflowing with COVID patients. Meanwhile, I brought this up about Sanders promising a filibuster. And that didn't happen. Why did that not happen? Allegedly because 41 Democrats moved against him. Have you heard him say anything about Schumer or any of the Democrats that moved against him? Even though, pardon me, even though a number of Republicans were in favor of the $2,000 stimulus, which he wanted brought up for a floor vote in the Senate, 41 Democrats voted against it. Okay? The Sanders cult are the ones that frustrate me the most. You keep on, you're just as bad as the Trump cult. It's all, on the right and the left, you got but Trump, but Trump, but Trump, and which is all about either hating or loving one name and not paying attention to the reality behind it. The Sanders cult, you don't pay any attention to any of the atrocities or deceptions being shoved on you. Sanders in 2016 said he was going to challenge the convention. Did that happen? No, it didn't. He said he was going to force Clinton to utilize some of his policies. Did that happen? No. But he went off and campaigned for her. Then he said he was going to hold the Democrats to account. Yeah, while he was on the DNC Unity tour with Tom Perez. When the 2020 election came up, he promised this time was going to be different. Virtually the same thing happened as in 2016. And he was on the December 2019 DNC Unity fundraising video. Really? So now you think that when he promises a filibuster to hold a floor vote on the $2,000 stimulus, 41 Democrats move against him. He says nothing about it, and you think that this was not planned, this was not staged, this was not coordinated in advance? Yes, you're a cultist. He said he was going to force Biden also to utilize some of his policies. That didn't happen. We had the theatrical joint committee between the Biden and Sanders campaigns after the primary. What came of that? Absolutely nothing. There was nothing that was holding Biden to account. And now Sanders says, oh, well, Biden has his first 100 days, and I have my first 100 days during the Biden administration with all these progressive policies he claims he's going to bring forward. How many hundreds of days has he had in which he could have done this? If holding people to the record means something, which it should, how many policies, how many pieces of legislation could he have introduced in the 4 years since 2016 while Trump was in office? How about before 2016? If he had been introducing all of this progressive legislation just to have names attached to it for or against it, then why hasn't he been doing this all along? Why? Because the Democrats don't want him to. Because then they would be on the record opposing things like universal health care, $15 wage, increasing taxes on the wealthy. I mean, these things he could have been forcing these things through. Pelosi could have been forcing these things through. Schumer could have been forcing these things through one way or another. Nothing. But you're still going to keep on chanting, Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. And you're going to claim that you're not a cultist. I don't care what name you want to worship, you're still worshiping a name and ignoring facts. You can kill a man, you can ignore a name, you can erase a name. You cannot kill an idea. We are the ones that have to act. We are the ones that have to be on the line, sending emails, sending letters, protesting, making phone calls to our elected officials, boycotting corporations. We're the ones that have to do this. If we're not doing it, nobody is holding anyone to account. And you're not going to hold Bernie to account. You're not going to hold Biden to account. Until you do, you can't call yourself a progressive. If you don't support force the vote, if you don't start just ignoring all that stuff. Look, why doesn't Vermont have universal health care? Yes, universal health care can be implemented by state, which is how we need to be doing it. Although, look what happened in California. Universal health care was passed in a public referendum in California as a ballot initiative, and the Democrats in California negated it. But they got voted in again. We're not holding people to account. We are not holding people to account. We are responsible for the condition of this country. Until you admit that you are in a cult and you are acting like this is a religion against other religions, nothing's going to change except for the worst. And the worst is about to happen. We have to change ourselves before we can change anything else. We have to hold each other to account. Whenever somebody is just cheering for a name, call them out. All right? That is it for this video. Break the cult mindset in yourself, in others. We have to stop this. All right? Share this video. Talk about these subjects. Think about it. Meditate on it. All right? If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.